Okay, good morning. We are on 21, and we begin 21a, 5 lines from the top. We're continuing to discuss the Mishnah, which talked about the the prohibition against cutting yourself for a dead person for mourning or for tearing out your hair in certain places. Tani Tana Kami Rabbi Yochanan. The top before Rabbi Yochanan al mace ben biad ben mikli chayav. If you are cutting yourself for a over a dead person in the morning. So whether you do it by hand or with an implement, um, you're liable. Although it's kochavim, but if it's a idol worship kind of thing and not for mourning, then biad chayev b'kli pater. Then doing it by hand, that's considered avodah zarah. That's the way it was done. But with an implement like a razor or whatever, that is not the way it's done for avodah kochavim. Then you are exempt. But Gemara says we have the opposite statement. Um, the opposite in the Navi actually. So in the case of Eliyahu and Har Carmel, the priests of the Baal, they cut themselves as was their as according to their rules with swords and razors, so or spears maybe. So clearly the avodah zarah there was done with implements. Elema biad pater, so a b'kli chayv. So we have to reverse the brisa and saying and have the brisa say the opposite, which is if you do it for avodah zarah, you can't do it with an implement, but if you do it by hand, that doesn't count. That's not avodah zarah. Now, the Chayv al Rosh, the Mishnah listed the places on your head where you are forbidden to make a bald spot. Mechve, Rav Sheshes ben Pirkei Resha. Mechve Rav Sheshes like pointed out ben Pirkei Resha, between the Pirkei Resha refers to the temples, right? The corners of the head, if you will. He showed them, where are the places that you're forbidden to make a bald spot. The forbidden part of the beard is two joints on each side, the two corners on each side, and the chin. Rav Sheshes ben Pirkei Dikna, and when Rav Sheshes is teaching this, he showed, like he pointed to, he used his own face as a model. Um, uh, Now, Rabbi Eliezer Omer im netalan. Rabbi Eliezer said, if you did all 5 spots of your beard at once, then you're only chayiv once. Kasavar chad lavhu, because he holds it's a single prohibition. So, if you shave all 5 parts, it's just one lav, and you're only chayiv malchus once. The Gemara, the Mishnah said you're only liable if you use a razor to shave your beard. Tana Rabban, rabbis taught. The Torah says, don't shave the corner of your beard. What if you use scissors? Maybe you would think that you're not allowed to use scissors either. Talmud Lomar, lo sashchis. The next clause in the pasuk is v'lo sashchis es pasuk onecha. Don't destroy the corner of your beard. So scissors just cut above the surface, and it's not like uprooting. Whereas with a razor, we're thinking that really gets it right down to the roots. Ilos ashchis, and if the Torah only said don't destroy, yachal im likto b'mlakid rehitni yechayiv, then I would think that even using tweezers, you would be liable. So it has to be in the way of cutting. So it's like destroying it, uprooting it right down to the below the skin, I guess. But it has to be with a way that's cutting and not plucking. That makes you liable. Okay, so how is it? It has to be a shaving that is also destroying. Haviyomer zetar, which is a razor. So scissors is not enough, and tweezers is not a cutting implement. So it's only a razor with which you're chayav. Rabbi Eliezer and Feel Lichtov and Lakin Nichayv, but in the Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer said that even tweezers you're not allowed. Manashach. It's so like either way you look at it, there's a problem. Igam Gzera Shava, if it's a Gzera Shava from the Kohanim, right, where it says Pasukon on Galechu, so Libaitar, then you should need a razor because that's only a razor is prohibited to use. Elo Gomer Gzerashav, and if he doesn't compare it to the Kohanim, Mispraim Namilo. So a Kohen should also not be able to use scissors. Where it says Leolam Gomer Gzerashav, yet really there's Gzerashav between the Kohen and the regular person because Sabar Haninami Gulu Achavde, but he holds that these kinds of planes are also like normal are also shaving. So it's just a question of what do you consider shaving, like what implements accomplish a shave as opposed to a cutting. Okay, next Mishnah has to do with tattoos.
Wait, the shaving permitted, but the cutting is not?
Correct. I mean, no, the other way around. The shaving is not permitted. I mean, define your terms. Like
Getting confused.
cutting with scissors is not a problem.
But cutting marring the face, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
If one is cutting, it could be cutting the skin, cutting the face. That would be marring the face, right?
Oh, okay. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about cutting your beard.
Well, there was when it talked about destruction, right? That
But
would
no,
be
by destruction didn't mean the
that's
skin. Destruction that doesn't mean the skin. What that means is you're like uprooting the hair. So I'm not sure exactly how to translate it because a razor doesn't uproot anything, but like a good razor maybe will get kind of below the skin level. I'm not sure how to explain it exactly, but it's cutting it so well that it's as if it's destroying it is really getting the hair right out of there. If that is that really true, I don't know. But the way the Gemara is understanding it, it's like a razor really does a good job of getting the hair right out of there, whereas scissors only do superficial work. You're cutting maybe the visible part of the hair or as best as you can, but you're still leaving the hair in place. Does that make sense?
Well, when we use the word, they use hashkata. That means really destruction, but they're
Yeah,
not referring to damaging
destruction of the hair.
the hair.
Yeah. So you can see the difference between cutting a hair, which just makes it shorter, or destroying the hair, which gets rid of it altogether. I guess that's the distinction. Cutting it, making it shorter, or getting rid of it altogether.
So if one uses a shaver to the point that it damages the skin, that would be.
I think that's a separate issue. That's not
I
an
see.
issue of shaving. That would be an issue of self-inflicted injury.
Self-mutilation.
Yeah, but that's not a shaving issue. Then we're talking about breaking the skin, wounding yourself. Nobody
Right.
thinks that cutting a hair is wounding yourself, right? The hair is dead material, and it's fine to cut it in general, except when you get too good at it in the certain places of your face or your head. So next mission says, "Kosev
But
kasovas."
even shaving.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just
Kosev
thinking, even
kasovas kaka.
shaving. I mean,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ken. I'm sorry. I
yeah.
keep interrupting you.
No, I was just saying, I'm just thinking for a moment that if one shaves too close, I mean, how close can one would shave to actually remove the hair completely? I mean, the hair's,
Okay, so that's not clear to me. Um,
I mean, the
I
follicle is still there unless one actually used like electrolysis. You would actually remove the follicle from the hair, tear it out of the.
right. Right, which the Gemara refers to as depilatories. So I guess it's like maybe it's cutting it so close that it's not visible anymore.
All right.
Whereas with scissors, the idea is that you've cut it, but it's shorter, but it's still there.
I just want to, as a point that depilatories is not the same as electrolysis. My mother was electrolysis for over 50 years.
Oh
If
yeah, but I don't think
electrolysis
yeah.
removes it completely from the root, depilatory does not.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My mother would be very particular about that.
I beg your pardon. I beg your mother's pardon. Um, okay, but I don't think the Gemara had electrolysis. So, okay. Hakozik Kazavas Kaka, if you make a tattoo, that's a Malkus liability. Kosov Kaka, if you like write on your skin, but it's not like under the skin, you didn't like I guess the idea of a tattoo is you make a like a pinprick in the skin and you get ink underneath the skin, right? So if you write above the skin, that's not a problem without the without pricking the skin. A kakavalo kasav, or if you just prick the skin but you don't use any ink, in a chayv, that's not a problem. You have to um, prick into the skin and insert ink in there, right? Bidio with ink, o bekachol or with blue ink, uhol roshu roshem, or anything that makes a leaves a mark. Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda mishum Rabbi Shimon Omer, eno chayva sheichtov sham es Hashem. No, the only prohibition against tattoos is writing God's name on your under your skin. Shanamar, Uksovas Kakal Lotit Nuvachem Ani Hashem. Don't put tattoos on yourselves. I am God. So he's conflating the two clauses in the phrase that only if you write Hashem as a tattoo, that's the only liability, according to Rabbi Shimon. So I'm going to Ravacha Berei
And what
Derova
name
or
of Hashem
Rashi.
is it? Is it Elohim? Is it Yud and then K and then Vav K? Is it? I mean, there are various names of Hashem, right?
Hmm. Good question. Um, I don't know. Good question. I mean, I think Elohim is more of a
Right.
generic term. Um, I would guess that doesn't count, but any of the names of God, Yud Keh Vav Keh, or there are these more mystical and unknown names of God, or maybe Aleph Dalet and Yud. I'm not sure, but that's certainly. But Mom wouldn't count. Amar Ravacha Berei Derav Ravashi. Ad yichtov ani Hashem mamash. So what does Rav Shimon mean? Does the only liability is if you write the words ani Hashem, I am God, as it says in the pasuk, or Amar le lo? No, that's not what he means. Um, it means writing the name of God, not the phrase "Ani Hashem." Because it's only Bar Kapar, as Bar Kapar taught, "In a chayva shichtov shem avodos kochavim." Bar Kapara says, so here we explain not the name of God, but the name of any pagan god, any other god. Shenamar uksois kakal lo titnu v'chem ani Hashem, ani Hashem v'lo acher. So in other words, now Bar Kapara is interpreting the pasuk like this: don't make tattoos in your skin, because I am God. Meaning, don't put other gods' names under your skin. Okay, Ani Hashem v'lo acher. I am God, not somebody else, not another god, and that's why you can't tattoo the names of gods into your skin, other gods. So that answers your question. So according, it seems like a different opinion than Reb Shimon in the Mishnah. Reb Shimon seems to be saying God's name, and Bar Kapar is saying other gods' names. Amor of Malkia.
Rashi comments on the side. He says, "Ad shichtov ani Hashem mamash."
Mhm.
He says, "Al tevot halalu ani Hashem ata mechayvo mishum ketovat ka'aka."
Right. So that was Ravacha's question. Is Rabbi Shimon saying that the only thing you're not allowed to do is write the words Ani Hashem as a tattoo? And the answer is no. That's not what he means. He means writing God's name, not the phrase Ani Hashem. The problem is writing God's name, or Bar Kapar, as Bar Kapar would have it, writing the name of other gods.
Right.
Okay. Here it is. Second. Can't see the page well enough here. Okay. Amar of Malkia, Amar Vada Baraba. We have this Rav Malkia. We'll comment on the name in a minute. He said the following: Asr loli adam shitain efer makla al gabe makasa. You can't put ashes from a wood fire on a wound because because it looks like it's too close to a tattoo. So first, before analyzing this, Kumar wants to know a little bit more about this Rav Malkia and the name Malkia or similar names. Amar Rav Nachman Berei Ravika. Rav Nachman said, "Shafod shafachos v'gumos Rav Malkio." The rulings about a spit and maidservants and pores. These were made by Rav Malkiel. Beluris Efer Makla Ugevina, Rav Malkiah. There was a different person, Rav Malkiah, who made the rulings about haircuts and what we just saw, putting ashes on your wounds and cheese. Um, and Rav Papa Amar Masnisin Umasnisa Rav Malkiah. Our Mishnah, um, or anything in the Mishnah or a Brisa, that's Rav Malkiah. Shmatza Rav Malkiah. But things said by Amoraim were Rav Malkiah. V'simanech, and how do you remember this? Masnisa Malkusa. Um, like the words sound the same. Masnisa Malkusa. Uh, so the mnemonic is that Rav Malkiah um, is it rhymes with Masnisa, and so that's how you remember. My now, what's the difference between these two? The difference would be attributing the psak about maidservants, which is a mishnah about what um, if you a woman has certain things that she's supposed to do for in her as a to maintain the home, and she can get off the hook if she has maidservants to do it for her. But Rabbi Eliezer says, and Rav Malchio agrees that no matter how much help you have in the house, the wife still has to do certain things. Um, so that's a Mishnah. So according to Rav Nachman, that was said by Rav Malkiah, but Rav Papa says it's a Mishnah, it must be Rav Malkiah. Anyway, back to tattoos. Rav Bibi bar Abaye copied afilu arivda de chusilta. Rav Bibi was careful not even to put ashes on even a very small, tiny puncture in the skin, because it would be like tattooing. Ravashi says, if Ravashi says, don't worry about this at all. If you can see that somebody has a wound, then putting ashes on is clearly that he's doing it not as a tattoo, but as a to heal the wound. So he doesn't see a problem in it at all. Okay. Next Mishnah discusses multiple. The Mishnah of the Gemara are going to discuss like multiple offenses with one action. Nazir hayashosa yain kol yom. Let's say you're Nazir, you're not allowed to drink wine, and you drank wine all day. In chayav halachas, you only chayav one malchus because again, you have to have hasra. You have to be warned by a witness. The witness says you can't drink wine. You're a Nazir. You're gonna malchus, and you say I don't care, and you drink wine, and you keep drinking wine all day long. That's only one punishment of lashes. Tisha. But if every time you pick up your glass, there's somebody saying, "Don't drink, you're a Nazir. Don't drink, you're a Nazir," and you do it anyway, v'hushos, and he drinks anyway, then you're liable for each time you drink with its own warning.
What is it that when all yom, call a yom, does that mean without stop? Or is there a tokidei dibur? Is there an hour between? You have an hour or 2 hours? Is there a time period, an interim in which one is not drinking, that he would have to be chayav another
No, the thing that makes you chayav another time is the new warning.
I see. So if someone warns him once and goes
Then
out the
he
door and
drinks
never
all
sees
day.
him again,
That's all under the first warning. You're only chayav once, but then later in the day, or at any time after he's been drinking or during his drinking fest, somebody else comes or the same person gives him hasra again, warns him again, and he continues to drink. Then he's chayav a second time. So every time you get warned and you ignore the warning, you have a liability for malchus. I'm one about a Nazir who who kept making himself tame. And chayav alachas, you're only chayav once. Amrlo al tatame. But if he was warned repeatedly and he kept going into the cemetery or touching the dead body, and he continued to do it, chayav alachas v'yachas. Then you're chayav in each case. Which is interesting because, like, once you're tame until you become tahar. But apparently, the Mishnah makes clear that even if the Nazir is already Tameh, by actively coming into contact with Tuma, with a mace, he's violating the restriction. What about a Nazir who's not allowed to shave if he kept shaving all day? He only chayiv once. I'm allowed to galech, al to galech, v'um galech. But if they kept warning him and he shaved every way, chayiv kolachos v'yachos. Then he's chayiv every time he gets warned and violates the prohibition.
Well,
Hayalovish
how does
b'kilayim.
with it, if he's tummy mate, for instance, then how does he once he goes to the mikveh, that's what he has to do, then he's a tahor, right? Or he loses nazir, whatever. But so how can he be tummy again?
Is what I'm
Actually,
saying.
right, I know, yeah, you alluded to that, but then does he have to go to the mikvah a second time and a third time in order to be? Well, once he's tahor, right?
So you have to distinguish between two different things: the state of tuma and the act of coming in contact with a mace. Right. So the state of tuma is not affected by a nazir. A nazir becomes tahor. I mean, there's a procedure for ending his
Right.
nazirus, but as
That's
far as
right.
being tahor, it's the same like everybody else, right? You can, no matter how many times you touch the mace, you go to the mikvah one time and you're done. Right. I mean, you do, the whole the thing with the paraduma and everything.
Right.
You do it one time and you're done. Right. Now, as far as violating your Nazirus, apparently every time you come in contact with a mace, regardless of your current status, you're still liable
Liable for what? What does he have to do?
for the Isur. You're a Nazir. You're not allowed. There's a losase not to become Tame,
So
and
what's
you
the
violate
punishment? Does he have to bring another
Malchus.
korban
Malchus.
or another malchus? I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but the carbon I think has to do with the state of becoming Tahar. Or the state, in that case, the carbon is not for tahor, but the state of ending your nazirus. So that's a separate issue from the act of coming into contact with a mace.
Right. Okay.
Hayalovish kilayim kol yom. Somebody who's wearing kilayim all day in the chayiv elachos. You only chayiv once for the original warning. Amru al tilba shal tilba shvu poshet v'lovesh. But if the people said don't be wearing shatnez and you took off the shirt and then you put it back on after that warning, chayiv kolachos v'yachos. So here it's a little different because it's poshet v'lovesh. And Mishnah makes it clear that continuing to wear the shatnez beged would not incur. That's like maybe that's not a masa. That would not incur a new penalty. But if you take it off and put it on again after a new warning, that would incur a new penalty. Yesh chorish. Now the Mishnah goes
He
off
got
on
50 warnings during the day and he's wearing the same garment. It's just there's still one time, one malchut.
yeah. Yesh chorish telachas. You can have a case where somebody plows a single furrow, v'chayv alav mishum shmon lavin, and you're violating 8 lotases. How could this be? Hacharish b'shar v'chamor. If you're plowing with a mixed pair of an ox and a donkey together, that's lav number one. V'hei muktashim, and each of them are hekdesh, so that's 2 and 3. Kilayim b'kerem, and what are you plowing? Um, you're uh, you're planting kilayim in a vineyard. So that's like uh, um, so yes, if you're plowing and you in the process of plowing you are burying, i.e. planting these mixed types, which you're not allowed to do. So that's number 4. Ubashvis, and it happens to be a Shemitah year. That's 5. V'yom Tov, and it's on a Yom Tov. That's 6. V'kohen v'nazir b'veis tuma, and it's in a cemetery, and you're a kohen and a nazir. So there's 2 more violations, 7 and 8. Hananya ben Chachinaya Omer Af Halovish Kilayim. I can add a 9th one on. While you're wearing kilayim, you're doing that. Amrlo Eno Hashem. That's not part of the action of plowing. Like that, you could also say, and you're worshiping Avodah Zarah, and you're whatever. You could do. It's what we're looking for is the same action of plowing. Makes you chayiv in these multiple things, and wearing the kilayim is not related. So in that case, why do you count the nazir and the kohen and beis hatuma? That's a separate prohibition. There's nothing to do with the plowing. Even if you were just standing there as a nazir and a kohen, you'd be chayiv, right? So it's nothing to do with the plowing. So So he's like either make go back down to six or include my example of wearing kilayim. So Amar Rav Biba Amar Rav Yossi. Rav Bibi said, Hoshet Velovish. The Mishnah commented on this that the Mishnah, in talking about wearing kilayim, said you have to be chayiv again. You have to take it off and put it back on. Lovesh mamash. Does it? Oh, afilu machnis umosi beis yadon kli shalo. Or does it mean you really have to take it completely off and put it back on? Or if you just like take your arm out of one sleeve and then put it back in, is that considered enough to be a new violation? Machve Ravacha Bered Ravika. Ravacha demonstrated iluye vafuke. He showed like how you would like slip your arm out of one sleeve. Um, you know, he's apparently showing them that. And one second. It's unclear if this means he's showing them what it means to completely take it off and put it on, or just to slip your arm out. And it's also unclear if he's showing them, well, if he's showing them just slipping your arm out, it's unclear if he's saying that this is how you stay patur or this is how you're chayiv. But I guess like the whole point of demonstrating it would be to show that, this is not enough to make you chayiv. This is what it seems to me. Ravashi Amar, afilu lo
So
shah
one arm is not enough.
right.
That,
Well, it's not like that's the question in front of us. So by demonstrating what that means, um, you know, if you're going to say that you're chayav for doing that, then what do you even have to demonstrate it for? But well, maybe I don't know. It's very unclear what you
Rashi
know
says,
which
"Machnis
position is.
motzi." Rashi says, "Machnis motzi yado bevet yad chaluko demei kaposhet."
Dami kaposhid lovish. Yeah. So Rashi's position is, well, that's on the first statement, but what is Rav Acha demonstrating, and what is he saying by his demonstration? Is first of all, it's unclear if he's demonstrating completely taking it off and putting it on, or just slipping out one arm. And whichever it is, what's he trying to say? Is he trying to say that slipping out one arm is okay or not okay?
Rashi seems to suggest, the way I understand it, that would be like removing the whole garment, right?
No, but Rashi is commenting on the question, right?
Oh,
Right. So he's saying this is what the question is, but the answer is unclear.
I see.
Um, Ravashi says, "I feel lo shah ela kadei lifshat v'lubash." Ravashi says you don't even have to actually take it off. Just leaving it on your body for long enough that you could have taken it off and put it back on, that is a new violation. Okay. Then chayav, that's a new violation. So that goes against how we understood the Mishnah. We understood the Mishnah to mean you have to actually take it off and put it on to be chayav a new time. But Ravashi is saying no, even leaving it on your body for long enough to take it off and put it back on, that's enough for a new violation. Now, yesh charm talacha. So the Mishnah um, cited this case of how you can be chayav 8 times or 8 different things with one plowing activity. Amar Rav Yanai, b'chavura nimnu v'gamru, they took a vote. Hachofa b'kilayim loka. If you just cover the kilayim seeds with earth, with dirt, then that's enough to make you chayav. Armon Rav Yochanan, love Mishnah Seinu Hizu. That's what our Mishnah says. Yesh charsh halacha l'chayv olam mishum shmona lavin. Our Mishnah of the 8 violations. Hacharsh b'shor v'chamor v'hein v'gdashim v'kilayim b'kerem. Right, that you're plowing and you're covering over kilayim seeds, so that clearly shows you that is a violation of kilayim. Um, Hi charish to mechayev mishum kilayim hechem eshkachos la. Because what do you mean by that? By plowing, you can be chayev for kilayim, for planting kilayim. Lav de michase bahadei dazil. Doesn't it mean that as you're plowing, the dirt covers that you're disturbing, covers the seeds? Amalei ilav de delay lachasva mimashkachos marganisa tosa. Rabbi Yanai said to him, "If I didn't lift up this shard for you, would you have found the pearl underneath it? Like I got you thinking about this. You wouldn't have noticed that in the Mishnah, You might have explained the Mishnah differently. Um, so, like, don't be so smart. Amalei Reish Lakish, Rabbi Yochanan, Reish Lakish said, he loved the kilsach gavarabba. If Rabbi Yanai had not agreed with you, praised you, Havamina, I would have thought, Masnisi Mani Rabbi Akiva he. The mission is like Rabbi Akiva, the Amar Hamakayim Kilayim Loka, who says that you don't even have to plant kilayim. If you just maintain them, then you are. Then you're chayav. So maybe our mission is according to Rabbi Akiva that just maintaining them there and not removing them is enough to make you chayav, and it doesn't prove anything about the other view, whether just covering them lightly with dirt is considered planting or not. So according to Rabbi Akiva, certainly you're chayav, but according to not Rabbi Akiva, maybe it requires a more deliberate planting to make you chayav. My Rabbi Akiva, where do we find this view of Rabbi
That
Akiva?
covering Rabbi Akiva then suggesting covering them is what
Rabbi Akiva says no. Rabbi Akiva says like even you don't even have to cover them. Like not uprooting them. You passed by Kilayim and you didn't do something to prevent them from growing. Then you're already chayav.
So
And
it's but covering. I mean, is that are we saying that's like covering the evidence, or is it
no, covering something with dirt is that's
like
planting
planting?
basically.
It's
But
planting.
maybe if you don't do it deep enough, it's not really planting, right? Or if you're not intending to plant, right? It's a little unclear what the difference between planting and just covering something with dirt inadvertently is.
Well, even advertently, maybe is that considered planting? If two seeds there, and you cover them, you put it. It's like putting. You could say you're putting them away. You don't intend it, but is that an intentional act of kalayim, just covering them with dirt?
Well, that's what we're seeing in our Mishnah, right? That's how Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yanai are interpreting our Mishnah. That even though what you're really doing is plowing, if as a result of your plowing you're covering some kilayim seeds with dirt, you're chayiv.
Oh, that's inadvertently.
Right.
I was saying that maybe advertently you deliberately cover so that you won't be planting them, putting them aside. You cover them up,
Oh,
no one
but
else will see them.
well then certainly you wouldn't be. Uh, I mean, that's not the case our Mishnah is talking about. Our Mishnah
Okay.
is proposing a case in which you're plowing, and as a result of your plowing, the dirt covers kilayim seeds.
So you have to be in that case. One has to be very attentive. See that check the whole field first to make sure there's no climb, and you don't inadvertently cover them with dirt. Then
Indeed. Although, to get Malchus for it and to really violate the B'mezid, you'd have to be warned, right? So somebody would say, hey, look out, there's grapes and wheat there, grape seeds and wheat seeds there. And then you did it anyway, then you'd be chayiv. Otherwise, it would be a shogeg.
well then it's
Which, I
then
mean, you're right. You should still have to be careful about what you're doing.
well then I mean it all then how is it inadvertent? If someone warns you, then it's inadvertent because you didn't look for them. Is that what? Is that it? I mean, we're saying he covers them. He's in the midst of plowing. He shovels dirt. Doesn't even know they're kalayim. But someone told him an hour before, make sure you don't cover the kalayim. Sort of that would be the scenario. That would be the case.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's right.
So he has to search the whole field to make sure there's no kalayim
Yeah.
before he does anything.
My Rabbi Akiva, and where do we see this Rabbi Akiva view? The Tanya Hamanakesh v'machapa b'kilayim. A person's weeding or covering seeds and doing it where there's kilayim. Look, you're violating. You get malchus. Rabbi Akiva Amar Afamakayim. Rabbi Akiva says even if you just maintains kilayim without actually doing anything active to grow them. My Talmud Rabbi Akiva, and what's his reason? The Tanya, because we have a brisa. Sadchol tizra kilayim. Torah says don't plant kilayim in your field. Ein liel is a rare. That's only planting, right? Minakayim, minayim. What about just maintaining them? Like Rabbi Akiva says, Talmud Lomar, Torah says, Bam tahol sarbia kilayim, sadchol tizra kilayim, and we're going to take the comma out, and just focus on the words kilayim sadchalo. Kilayim sadchalo would mean that, like, do everything to make sure that you don't get kilayim in your field. Amalei Ula Rav Nachman, so Ula said Rav Nachman, Vilu Kinam Mishum Zorea B'Yom Tov. So if you're going to say this is like planting kilayim, there's another violation here, Zorea, right? You can't plant things on Yom Tov. Amalei, ton of Ashir. Yeah, it didn't mean just 8. It could be 9, right? There's other things not counted. Amalei, Tana, Katani, Shmana, but the Mishnah gave him a specific number, 8, right? The other ton of Ashir, you're saying like he left things out. Usually you only say you left things out if the Mishnah lists things and leaves some out. But if it says there are 8 things and it counts 8, you don't tell me there are 9 things. Hamarava, Yesh Chiluk Malachos B'Shabbos. But the Ein Chiluk Malachos B'Yom Tov. The difference is that on Shabbos, you can be chayav, but for one act that does 2 malachos, you can be chayav twice. On Yom Tov, we don't say that. On Yom Tov, no matter how many things you're doing, how many malachos you're doing with one action, you're only chayav once. And so Zoreya and Choresh, even though you're doing 2 isurim on Yom Tov, you're only chayav once, and so the number is still 8. Amalei Ada Tehe. Yeah, you're right. That's why. Which, by the way, explains, like, you could say, oh, well, no, I was going to say you could say Shabbos. What if it's Shabbos and Yom Tov? But Shabbos is not an Easter love, it's Easter skila, so never mind. I withdraw that. Abai says, what, you're going to tell me that you don't get punished for 2 malachos on Yom Tov? Separately, Vatznan, Hamavashal Gid B'chala B'Yom Tov. What if you cook Gid Hanasha in milk on Yom Tov? V'achalo, and you eat it. Loka Chamesh, you get 5 Isurim there. You're not allowed to eat the gid on Asha. You're not allowed to cook on Yom Tov if it's not for eating on Yom Tov. So since this isn't kosher, you can't cook it on Yom Tov. That's 2. And cooking the gid on Asha in milk. That's 1 isur. And then you're eating meat and milk, even though it's non-kosher meat. That's 4. And lighting the fire, right? So Misa, so that's 2 things on Yom Tov, lighting the fire and cooking on Yom Tov, right? Misa, if it's true that you don't get punished twice for 2 separate things on Yom Tov with one action, Mishum Avar Lam Chayev. Don't make you chayav for lighting the fire because you're already chayav for cooking, right? So Gemara says, "Apik havara va'el gidan ashel shenavela." So okay, let's change the brisa. Why are there 5 things? Because take out havara, take out lighting the fire, and put in eating the gidan asha, not that you cooked on Yom Tov, but of an avela. So there's the extra. There's the 5th thing. It's an avela and it's gidan asha. Batani Rabbi Chia loka shtayim achilasa v'shalosh shel bishulo. But Rabbi Chia commenting on these 5 punishments says there's 2 for eating and 3 for cooking. If you want to say that the 5th one is not the lighting of the fire, but the eating of the nevela, then it's the other way around. It's 3 for eating and 2 for Yom Tov, right? No, so we're going to say what the Bryce is talking about, not lighting the fire on Yom Tov, but using the wood of an Asherah tree, which is Avodah Zarah. And the warning is from here. You can't keep anything from a ir, right? Meaning you can't have hana from avodah zarah. So that's the 5th. That would be the 5th thing. So in other words, amend the text of the brisa. So we're talking about not cooking not lighting the fire on Yom Tov, but using wood from an asherah to cook this concoction. Then there's a 6th one. You can't bring any avodah zarah, any abomination into your house. So there would be like so it's not just using the Asherah wood, it's like bringing the Asherah wood into your house, using it in any way. So there would be 6. We're talking about, let's say the Bryce is talking about not avodah zarah wood, but hekdesh wood. You're using hekdesh wood to cook your this gid hanasha and milk concoction. Where's the prohibition? Burn their asheras. Don't do so to God. So in other words, burn their asheras, but don't burn hekdesh. Don't burn something that is for the worship of the real God. And so in that case, that would be the 5th lav which is in this case, which is cooking with or using hekdesh wood to cook your concoction with.
Wasn't
Okay,
this Chilukei Yontiv then? We were saying before that there is no Chilukei Malachot B'Yom Tov.
right.
So doesn't it show that this whole stream, doesn't it show there's Hilukei Malachot B'Yom Tov?
Yeah. So in other words, yeah. So Rabbi Akiva would disagree with this Mishnah.
Uh, I see. So that was Rabbi Akiva's
Yeah.
opinion. There was no Chilukei
Right.
Malachot B'Yom Tov.
Right. Okay.
Uh, and you said the skila isn't on Shabbat. There's skila, right?
Right. So
As a
we're just talking about how can you be chayav for five lavin, like Malchus 5 times. So Shabbos doesn't figure into that because for Shabbos you get skila. And in fact, you probably wouldn't even get Malchus at all because kum lemin derabamine, right? If you have two simultaneous punishments and one is greater than the other, then you only get the greater one. So if there
but
were,
isn't there right? That's true. But isn't there a law if it does someone does something in Shabbat b'shogeg? Isn't that a law? We have to bring a chatat, right?
yeah, right. There's no Malchus then.
Oh, there's no malchut, but it is. It's a
Yeah, yeah, you'd still be over love, yes. But we're in Maseches Makkos
right,
after all,
right.
right? So we're trying to find where you would get 5 punishments um, of Malchus for various acts.
Right.
That's the
Okay.
focus of all the Mishnayos here. That what do
Correct.
you get Malchus for?
Right. Right. Correct. That's it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll pick it up here tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Have a good day.